So you've decided to get a dog from a breeder. What do you look for to make sure that breeder is responsible and ethical? Now, there's a few basics that are the minimum standard of responsibility and ethics when it comes to breeders. First, they should be breeding in standard. It's okay if some individual dogs are out of standard, but they should always be striving to create dogs that adhere to the breed standard set by the breed parent club. They should be health testing the parent dogs before they breed them to at least the guidelines set by the breed club, if not above that. And they should also have some kind of early socialization protocol that helps give the puppies the social foundation to live a happy, confident life. The first thing you're going to want to do when looking for a responsible breeder is figure out if they're doing the health testing they should be. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to the National Breed Club website, and that should have the recommended tests listed. If you can't find the recommended health testing on the Breed Club's website, that's okay. You're going to want to go to the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals, OFA, website and scroll to their CHIC program. And there you can just input the breed and it will pop up with the health testing that is recommended. The OFA does have a database of all the health testing they've done, so you can look up your breeder's dogs and make sure that they have been health tested. Now, you might also see something that all puppies are DNA tested or Embark tested, and that is great. Embark is great, but it does not substitute for the OFA testing. OFA testing is going to look for things like hip dysplasia and elbow dysplasia, any issues with knees. That's kind of what OFA is looking at, as well as eyes and heart. And I believe thyroid as well, though I have to double check that. But Embark is going to test for genetic things that wouldn't show up in that, but it's not going to test for structural things. So you're really going to want a breeder that either does all the OFA testing, or better yet, does all the OFA testing plus Embark. But no matter what, Embark is not enough on its own. That does not substitute for the OFA testing. Now, you're also going to want to look for a breeder that is striving to produce dogs that are adhering to the breed standard. This is different from health testing, but it is just as important for producing happy, healthy, structurally sound dogs. Breed standards reflect the ideal structure for a dog of that breed, and it reflects the ideal structure for doing the job the breed is traditionally bred for, which is what you're kind of looking for. Even if you don't plan to hunt with your golden retriever, a golden retriever should be able to hunt. Even if you don't plan on hunting with your foxhound, a foxhound should be able to go into the field and go do fox hunting all day, keeping up with the horses, and structure is very, very important for that. For a dachshund or a basset, you're really going to want to pay attention to structure, especially with the back problems the breed is prone to. Good structure means that dog is more likely to have a healthy, pain-free life for the duration of their life. Especially for breeds prone to health issues like Cavaliers, one of my personal favorites, you really, really want a breeder who is adhering to the breed standard to produce well-structured dogs that can do the jobs they were traditionally bred for. Even if that individual dog won't be doing it, it should be able to do it. It's a good idea to read the breed standard and try to become familiar with it, but if you don't really know what you're looking for, you can verify that a breeder is breeding to breed standard by seeing whether they do conformation. If a breeder is doing conformation, which is showing their dogs in a ring in front of a judge, and if they're winning and able to finish dogs all the way to their championship or even higher, then you know that they are breeding to breed structure. People will sometimes call dog shows a beauty pageant, and it's true that there is an element of that, but the dog shows serve a very important function in breeding in that they ensure that dogs that are being bred are also adhering to the breed standard and are structurally sound. You also want a breeder that's doing some kind of early socialization protocol. I really like puppy culture. A lot of breeders do Avidog or do some sort of mix of puppy culture and Avidog. And then there are some breeders that have their own early socialization protocol, but it's just as thorough as those. Early socialization is all about a breeder doing what they can to prepare dogs to live a healthy and stable life. Early socialization takes advantage of what's called the critical socialization period, which is from when a dog is born to approximately 16 weeks. And they are introducing puppies to novel stimuli and experiences that allow the puppies to learn and grow while they are still in that critical socialization phase. There's not really a one-size-fits-all early socialization program to look for, but again, puppy culture is a good one, Avidog is a good one, a mix of two is a good one, and the breeder might have their own. What you should be doing is asking any breeder you're looking into what their early socialization protocol is, and make sure that they are doing something. And that something should be more than, oh, I have kids, so they meet a lot of kids. That is great, but early socialization should be something more intentional and structured than just, I have kids. You also want to consider the goals you have for you and your dog long term and look for proof that the breeder is producing dogs that can do well in those goals. If you want to do specific sports with your dog, you're going to want to look for breeders whose dogs are titled in those sports because that shows success in those sports. So if you want to do barn hunt, you want to see dogs in the breeder's program, coming from the breeder's program, that are getting higher titles in barn hunt. If you want to hunt with your dog, you want to look for breeders that are either actively hunting with their dogs or breeders that are doing hunt-based sports and getting titles in those sports. If they have hunt titles, that also is a measure of hunting ability. If you want to do therapy work with your dog, make sure your breeder is either doing therapy work with their own dogs or has produced a lot of puppies from their program, and those puppies have gone on to do therapy work. If you just want a really good pet, look for a breeder who puts an emphasis on that early socialization and has a really robust early socialization protocol. You can also look for breeders doing therapy work because therapy dogs are going to have to be pretty solid, stable dogs. So that's also an indicator of a confident, happy dog. And of course, you need to consider what you want out of a breeder. If you just want to buy a dog and aren't as concerned with maintaining an ongoing relationship with the breeder, then a medium or higher volume breeder, as long as they're doing everything else responsibly, might be a good choice for you. If you want some kind of ongoing relationship, you're going to want to go to a lower volume breeder, which may also be called a hobby breeder. And then there's some legal considerations for breeders. You want to make sure the breeder you go to has a contract. That protects you, it protects the breeder, and most importantly, it protects the dog. And it shows that the breeder really cares about the well-being of the dogs they're producing. Now, not all contracts are created equal. As someone who has been to law school and practiced law, I know that. But even the presence of a contract just shows that the breeder does really care. I think the most important provision in a contract is the right of first refusal. The breeder should be retaining the right of first refusal, which means that if you have to give up the dog at any point in the dog's lifetime, the breeder will take them back, no problem, or at least assist in finding a home. Now, the magic words are right of first refusal, but really you just want to make sure that provision is in the contract. You do not want your dog to ever end up in the shelter system or with a rescue, putting strain on that adopted dog system. They are already under so much pressure, and they do not need any well-bred dogs ending up in rescue. So we want to make sure your breeder is doing everything they can to keep that from happening. And what they can do is put that return provision in their contract. We just do not need any more homeless dogs. All right, I covered what I could, but I am sure I left things out. So let me know in the comments what you look for in a responsible breeder.